key. Now, where do I start? This, this, this. How did I do this before? Sorry, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get the chat up. I think it's in here. No, it's not. Where is it? Control room, that's it. Okay, and then I just grab you. And then I have to grab. Where is it? Pop out chat. Grab you. Back into here, and then I have all of you here. And then I want to. No, browser. There. Alright, cool. So, and then just want to get his screen up. And then I just want to. What did I want to do? There was one other thing I needed to do. Won't come to me now. Oh. Yeah, that's it. Bring you down here. It's just in case if anyone says hello, I will also reply back and say hello. If any of you are watching this on replay, hello, welcome. I'm just going to I am going to do a recording that I didn't save the last time, so I'll have to read this one again, which is pretty annoying. There was a system malfunction, or just me being an idiot and forgetting to save it. So yeah, I am going to be reading this story again, and then I'm going to edit and throw it up hopefully this evening. And then if I have enough time, I might read another one. I'll see if I have time. So I need to get Audacity ready, which is. Where are you? Audacity. Skip. I need to put you back here. And then I want to bring the chat in so I can see it as I'm reading. Alright. Yeah, I think this works. I think you guys can see it also, can you? Yep. You can see what I'm reading. Okay. Can I bring that sideways? I can. That makes things easier. I doubt anyone's going to be jumping in. But if you do, I will answer any of your questions, or I'll say hello too. Okay, right, grand. Here we go. I am just getting this sorted. Okay. Sorry, I'm also getting my phone sorted, so it'll then tell me if anyone else jumps in as well, so then I can see all these. God, that guy is also doing a live. He does a lot. Right. Okay. So here we go. I don't know what to tell. Oh. My mic. Well, this is off. Am I on here? Yeah. You can hear me. Yeah. Playback should be through that. Okay. I don't know who else to tell, or what I even expect to happen by. Why is that so low? I don't. That's all from coming from my camera. I don't. Yeah, that's better. Okay. I don't know who else to tell, or what I even expect to happen by posting this. I can't call anyone. He's always around. I'm writing this on my phone, huddled in my closet, hoping the sound of the old house settling will cover the frantic tapping of my thumbs. I feel like a little kid again, hiding from monsters. The difference is, this time, the monsters thinks it's my dad. Let me back up. I'm 23. I live with my father. It wasn't the plan, obviously. College, job, my own place. That was the plan. But the economy is what it is. And my mum passed a few years back. And he was getting on in years. He's retired, and his pension is just enough to keep the lights on in this old house. It wasn't a bad arrangement. I'd work my shifts at a warehouse downtown, help with the bills, and he'd potter around, watch his old movies, and complain about his back. He had a rhythm. It was quiet, maybe a little lonely, but it was normal. The change was so gradual, I almost didn't notice it. At first, it was just nice. My dad, who, for the last 5 years, had mostly treated the armchair in front of the TV as a natural extension of his body, started moving again. He was always a big guy, a former mechanic, and age had settled on him like a thick layer of dust. But suddenly, the dust was gone. It started about a month ago. He went down to the basement to fix a leaking pipe. I'd offered to do it, but he insisted. Still, got some use in these old hands, he'd say. A familiar refrain. He was down there for hours. I remember calling down once, asking if he needed help, and just getting a muffled, got it handled in response. When he finally came up, he was smudged with dirt and grime, but he was grinning, a real toothy grin, wider. Whoa, some iffy's happening. Whoa, okay. Wider. Where is that? Wider. Yeah. Wider than I'd ever seen in a decade. All sorted, he announced, clapping his dusty hands together. He looked invigorated. I just figured he was proud of himself for handling the repair. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of bacon and the sound of birds chirping outside. That wasn't unusual. The unusual part was my dad, standing at the stove, humming. He hadn't cooked a proper breakfast since my mum died. He'd usually just pour himself a bowl of cereal and a grunt in the morning. Morning sun, he'd say, his voice bright. Eggs? I was surprised, but pleased. Yeah, sure, thanks. You're in a good mood. feeling spry," he said, flipping the eggs with a flourish that almost sent one to the floor. "Decided I've been sitting around too long. Life's for living, right?" That week, he was a whirlwind of activity. He mowed the lawn, which I usually had to nag him about. Mowed the lawn, which I usually had to nag about for days. He cleaned the gutters. He even started oiling the hinges on the doors so they wouldn't creak. I was thrilled. I thought maybe he'd finally pulled himself. I thought maybe he'd finally pulled himself. I thought maybe he'd finally pulled himself out of the long, quiet grief he'd been swimming in. I thought I was getting my old dad back. The first hint that something was wrong came a week later. I was getting ready to go out with some friends. It was a Friday night, the first I'd had off in a while. I was putting on my jacket when he came into the living room, wringing his hands. "You're going out?" he asked. His voice had lost its His voice had lost its cheerful edge. It was tight. "Yeah, just for a few hours. Grabbing a few beers with a couple... Grabbing a beer with a couple of guys from work." He winced and put a hand on his chest. "Oh, it's just... I'm feeling a bit funny. My chest is tight. Probably just indigestion. But, you know." I stopped, my keys halfway to my pocket. His face was pale. I felt a surge of guilt. "Are you okay? Should I call someone?" No, nothing like that," he said quietly, waving a dismissive hand. "I'm sure it'll pass. I wouldn't want to be here alone if it gets worse." Jeepers. So I stayed. I took my jacket off, ordered a pizza, and we watched one of his old black and white westerns. His chest pain seemed to magically disappear the moment I sat down on the couch. I was annoyed, but I told myself he was getting old and anxious. The next time I tried to leave, a few days later, it was his back. He claimed it had seized up so badly he couldn't get off the sofa to get a glass of water. I spent the evening fetching things for him, rubbing his shoulders and listening to him groan. The moment my friend called to ask where I was, and I said I couldn't make it, he suddenly felt a little better and managed to get to use the bathroom on his own. It became a pattern. Every single time I made a plan to leave the house, for any reason other than my work shifts, he would develop some sudden debilitating ailment, a migraine, dizziness, a stomach bug. It was so transparently manipulative that I got angry. We had a fight about it. I can't be your prisoner, I yelled one afternoon after he'd faked a coughing fit to stop me from going to the grocery store. Faked a coughing grocery store. Where are we? Store. I need to have a life. His face crumbled, not with anger, but with a deep, profound sadness that completely disarmed me. I just need you here, he whispered. Is that so much to ask? Is that so much to ask? I get lonely. What could I say to that? I felt like the world's biggest jerk. I stayed home again. But the active, energetic dad was still there. In between his sudden episodes, he was a dynamo. He repainted the porch. He fixed the wobbly fence in the backyard. He was up at dawn, gardening with a fervour I'd never seen. He was stronger, faster. He'd carry in all the groceries in one trip, bags hanging from his arms, without even breathing heavily. My dad, who used to get winded walking up the stairs. It was a contradiction I couldn't reconcile. The real fear, the kind that crawls up your spine and lives in the back of your throat, started with the sun. We were in the backyard. He'd been weeding the flower beds my mum had planted years ago. And I was sitting on the steps, scrolling through my phone. It was a bright, cloudless afternoon. The sun was beating down, casting long, sharp shadows across the lawn. I noticed my own shadow, a dark, stretched out silhouette of a man slouched over a phone. I looked at him, on his knees in the dirt, and I saw the shadow of a rose bush, the shadow of the fence, the shadow of the bird bath, but not his. He was a solid figure in the blazing sun, but the ground around him was unbroken, pure bright green. There was no shadow. I blinked. I rubbed my eyes. It had to be a trick of the light, an optical illusion. I looked away. Then looked back. Still nothing. A perfect, shadowless man in a world full of shadows. A cold knot formed in my stomach. "Hey, Dad," I said, my voice sounding thin and strange to my own ears. "Can you give me a hand with this?" I pointed to a heavy terracotta. Is it terracotta? I think it's terracotta. No, not my studio. Where is it? Yeah, I think it's terracotta.
Terracotta.
Son of a... Alright, where's this? Hand with this. I pointed to a heavy terracotta pot on the other side of the patio. A spot in direct, unforgiving sunlight. He looked up, and for a second I saw something in his eyes. A flicker of panic. He shielded his face from the sun with his hand, even though he was already squinting. In a minute, son. Just want to finish this patch. He never came over. He stayed in the garden, and as the sun began to set, he seemed to follow the receding line of the house's shadow, always keeping himself just inside it. From that day on, I became obsessed. I watched him constantly. I noticed how he never stood by the windows during the day. He'd even find an excuse to move if a ray of sunlight fell across him in the living room. How he always took his walks in the evening, after the sun had dipped below the horizon. He was always drawn to the shade, to the dim corners of the house. My worry curdled into dread. The excuses to keep me home became more frantic. Just last week, he unplugged my car battery and then feigned ignorance. A couple of days ago, I woke up to find he'd accidentally locked the front door and lost the key, trapping both of us inside until he miraculously found it that evening. I tried talking to him. I sat down in the dim light of the living room 2 nights ago. "Dad, we need to talk," I started, my heart pounding. "You're not acting like yourself. You're different, and you're keeping me here. I'm worried about you." He just stared at me, his face a calm, placid mask. The energetic, smiling man was gone, replaced by something still and watchful. "I'm fine, son. Never been better, and I'm not keeping you here. I just like having you around. A father can't like having his son around." "It's more than that," I insisted, my voice trembling. "Ever since he went down to the basement to fix that pipe, you've been different." "Something happened down there, didn't it?" His face didn't change, but his eyes hardened. It was like watching shutters close over a window. "Don't be ridiculous. I fixed the pipe. That's all. Now drop it." The finality in his tone was absolute. There was no arguing. The conversation was over. That was when I knew. I knew for a certainty. That made me feel sick to my stomach. The truth of what happened to my stomach. The truth of what had happened was in the basement. I waited until last night. I pretended to go to sleep at my usual time, lying in bed with my eyes wide open, listening to the sounds of the house. I heard him moving around downstairs. The soft, almost silent footsteps that were another new development. My old dad used to stomp around like an elephant. I heard him check the lock on the front door. Where's that? I heard him check the lock. Ah, crap. Yeah, on the front door. Then the back. I heard him walk past my door. Then the back. Where is that? Front door. Then the back. I heard him walk past my bedroom door, pausing for a long time, and I held my breath, my entire body rigid with fear. Then the footsteps receded, and I heard his own bedroom door click shut. I waited for what felt like an eternity, counting the seconds, listening to the old house groan and creak around me. Finally, when I was sure he was asleep, I slipped out of the bed. I didn't turn any lights on. I crept down the stairs, my every step a calculated risk. The basement door was at the end of the hall. It was always cold around it. I turned the old brass knob, cringing at the loud click of the latch. I pulled it open and was hit by a wave of cold, damp air that smelled of wet earth. Damp air that smelled of wet earth, and something metallic and vaguely sweet, the smell of decay. My phone was oh Jesus. My phone. Where is that? Yeah. My phone was my only light. I switched on the flashlight, the beam cutting a nervous, trembling path down the rickety wooden stairs. I went down, one step at a time, my ears straining for any sound from upstairs. The basement was as I remembered it. Concrete floor, stone walls, junk piled in every corner. Old furniture under white sheets like sleeping ghosts. Boxes of my mum's things, my old toys. The air was thick and heavy. I pointed my light toward the back wall, where the main water line came into the house. That's where he'd been working. I saw his old toolbox laying open on the floor. A pipe wrench was next to it, and the section of copper pipe was next to it. And the section of copper pipe he'd been working on looked new, clean. He had fixed it, but my eyes were drawn to the floor next to it. Most of the basement floor was concrete, but in his back corner it was just packed earth, and a large patch of it maybe 6 feet long and 3 feet wide, was different from the rest. The dirt was darker, looser. It wasn't packed down from decades of existence. It was disturbed, fresh. I stood there for a long moment, the beam of my phone shaking in my hand. My mind was screaming at me to run, to get me out of the house, out of town, to never look back. But I couldn't. I had to know. I found an old garden trowel in a bucket of rusty tools. I knelt down. The earth was soft, just as I thought. It gave way easily. I started digging. My breath came in ragged, panicked gasps. The only sounds were the scrape of the trowel against an occasional rock and my own frantic heartbeat pounding in my ears. The smell of damp earth was overwhelming, but underneath it, that other smell was getting stronger. It wasn't a deep hole. Maybe a foot down, my trowel hit something soft. Not a rock. I recoiled, dropping the tool. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold. Shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone steady. I forced myself to reach into the loose soil. Steady. I forced myself to reach into the loose soil. I closed my eyes and my fingers brushed against the fabric. Denim. The worn, familiar texture of my father's work jeans. I scrambled back, gasping for air, but I knew I had to see it. I had to be sure. With tears streaming down my face, I used my hands, clawing at the dirt, pulling it away. First a leg, then a torso, wearing his favourite faded flannel shirt. Wearing his favourite faded flannel shirt. I need to do that again. Wearing his favourite faded flannel shirt. And then the face. It was him, my dad. His eyes were closed, his mouth slightly open. His skin was pale and waxy, and there was a dark, ugly gash on the side of his head, matted with dried blood and dirt. He looked peaceful in a horrible, final way. He looked like he'd fallen from the stairs, hit his head, and it had all been over in an instant. Hey Aldo, you're on your way to work, 7 a.m. there? Yeah, it's 12:09 here. On your way to work on a Sunday as well, so I do feel very sorry for you. But could be worse. Could be no job. So, take it where it's good. And it had all been over in an instant. I stared at his face, the real face of my father, and a sound escaped my throat, a strangled sob of pure horror and grief. He was gone. He'd been gone for a month, lying here in a shallow, unmarked grave, while unmarked grave. Where's that? Wait. Oh, I have to burp. Oh, that never helps. While I've been living here with it. While I'd been living here. Damn it. While I'd been living with. And then I'm going to try this just for this part. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's how I used to do it, so I'll do that again. So I used to do new, throw you in here, get rid of the bottom one, change it to mono. No, go back. Copy that. Delete. Put you in here. Gonna turn you up, amplify. Not that much. With. Sounds like someone's farting, so I don't know if I can do that one. Hold on. Yeah, that just sounds like a fart as well. What about this one? You can hear the fucking. I don't want. Actually, that would nearly be better because he's got. No, he's. Yeah, it's gonna be walking, so. Yeah, that makes sense. I'll do this one, I think. Mono. If any of you ever want to do narration, I highly recommend you do put in sound effects. I didn't actually do it really much for this one, so I'm contradicting myself by doing that. This is. Can't even hear it. I'm going to amplify again. Maybe one more. And we'll just see. While I'd been living with. Yeah, that would scare me if I was listening to this at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Monday morning. Okay. Oh, and then I'll put in the. That's what I'll do. Then I'll put in this. So it makes it sound like he's walking, then he stops, and then you can hear the creak. Here we go. And then I'm going to amplify that. Okay, so. No, because now that sounds like a cat. That's the one I wanted. Mono. Delete. Grab. Bring that over. Bring it over there. Now it should sound way better. It should sound like everything comes into place. With. Yeah, it sounds like he's at the top of the stairs. The sound was coming from the top of the stairs. They're saying here it was a single soft footstep on the old wood. A few soft footsteps on the old wood. Slowly, I turned my head. My phone's light followed my gaze, travelling up the dark, rickety staircase. And he was there. He was standing at the top of the stairs, a dark silhouette against the faint light of the hallway. He was watching me. I couldn't see his face,
but I could feel his eyes. I was frozen, kneeling in the dirt next to my father's corpse. A cornered animal. He took another step.
I'll just do one step. A step. No, just one step. Where is that? Noise of footsteps. Jesus Christ, no, that sounds like he's running at me. No, the stairs. Wooden. Well, it's gonna be wooden anyway. Walking upstairs. Jesus, that scared me. Bloody hell, that scared the crap out of me. Stairs. Wooden. No, just wooden. We only need one step. No, that's just No, that's just a chair. Chair. Wooden floorboard. No. No, that's the one. That's the exact same. Delete that. No, that's kicking. Oh, I need to turn this down. I'd say whoever's listening to this on the live is even like, what are you doing? I was gonna say I could. Wood. No, creek. That usually gets them all. No, because it sounds like a. That one.
Animal.
Maybe the second one.
Animal.
That sounds way too like. No, I need. Do you know what I need? I need running stairs, and I need it to sound like a box. Does that sound? No, that's way too loud. Might be alright. If I just do this.
A cornered animal.
No, that's not gonna be good. I think I just keep going.
He took another step down, then another. He moved with a quiet, fluid grace that my father had never possessed. The flashlight beam caught his face as he neared the bottom of the stairs. He was wearing my father's pajamas. He had my father's tired, wrinkled eyes. He had my father's greying hair, and he was smiling. It wasn't a malicious smile. It wasn't a triumphant one. It was sad, infinitely sad, a smile full of pity that was more terrifying than any rage itself. I knew you'd find your way down here eventually, he said. His voice was my father's voice, but without the grovelly, smoke-worn edge. It was smoother, calmer. I'm sorry you had to see this. I couldn't speak. I could only stare, my mind a screaming void. I scrambled backwards, away from him, away from the body, until my back hit the until my back hit the stony, scribbly until my body hit the cold stone wall. He stopped a few feet away from the shallow grave, looking down at the body with that same mournful expression. It was an accident, he said softly. The second to last step. It's rotten. He was carrying the heavy wrench. His balance was off. He fell. He hit his head on the concrete floor right there. It was quick. He didn't suffer. He looked at me, his eyes full of strange, dark. I should have continued. Strange, dark, deep. Deep empathy. His last thought was of you. He was worried about you, worried you'd be all alone. My voice finally came back, a raw, terrified whisper. What are you? He tilted his head, a gesture that was so familiar, yet so utterly alien. I'm him, he said, and I'm not. You know how every person casts a shadow, a darker, simpler version of themselves that follows them through the light. Think of me as the other shadow, the one that lives on the other side of the veil. We watch. We exist in the shape of our double. We feel what they feel, their joys, their sorrows, their love. He took a step closer, and I flinched. He stopped. That last thought, he continued, his voice barely more than a murmur. The love he had for you, his fear of leaving you alone, it was so powerful. A life cut short, with so much left to give. It created a space. It pulled me through. I am his love, his duty, his need to care for you, given form. He gestured around the basement. I finished his work. I fixed the pipe. I buried him. So you wouldn't have to. I've been fixing the house. I've been making sure you're safe. I've been trying to be a good father. The words were insane, but in the cold, damp air of that tomb, they felt horrible, undeniably real. My dad is dead, I choked out, tears blurring my vision. Yes, the thing said in his skin, and the sadness in its voice felt genuine. He is, and I am so sorry for your loss, but I am here now. It took another step, and another, until it was standing right over me. It knelt down, so we were at eye level. Its face was inches from mine. I could see every line, every pore of the face I had known my whole life, animated by something I couldn't possibly comprehend. He loved you more than anything, it whispered, its breath cold. And so do I. I will never leave you. I will take care of you. We can be a family, just like he wanted, forever. And that's where I am now. He let me go upstairs. He walked behind me the whole way. He's in the living room, watching the television as if nothing happened. As if my real father isn't lying in the dirt downstairs. He's waiting for me. I'm locked in my closet. I know I can't escape. The doors are locked, and he is so much stronger than me. He doesn't need to sleep. He'll never get old. He'll never get sick. He'll just be here, taking care of me forever. I can hear him moving, the soft, quiet footsteps coming from down the hall.
They're not really soft, are they? They're more like flying, walking around the house. I wouldn't say that's quiet, was definitely. Wait, hold on, this one. No, that's like jumping or skipping. There we go. This might. That's just creepy. That sounds like they're rubbing off a glass. Jesus, no. Walking on the street, walking on glass, slowly walking up. That's walking up a stairs. Stairs. Sounds very angry. And he's supposed to sound soft. See, this one says the same. Yeah, that one I'll do. Mono, delete, grab the U, delete that, pull it over here, scroll that in, hit that there, scroll in. What I want to do is I want to make it sound like it's coming from outside. High pass filter, hit that, amplify that to here. This should still sound like it's outside. Yeah, I'll take it. Should it be low filter? Just want to double check that. Maybe, yeah. And then I want to increase the volume on it. No, I think it's supposed to be high. You fool. Yeah, that sounds like me listening from upstairs, but I want to make it sound like he's in the bedroom, so I think it's going to be high.
Steps coming from down the hall.
Maybe soft creaking footsteps. Yeah, possibly. That's a good point. That one. You know what? I might even just throw that one in. I might just throw this one in and then Amplify that. Amplify. See, when it's raining though, it's gonna... I'm not gonna hear it as much. You hear that though? Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Elder Gusto. Where am I?
Down the hall.
Yeah. Again, I just don't want it sounding like he's right beside him. I think no matter what, because it's just steps, it's just harder to do. So I'm gonna just leave it as that. And then going to do...
From down the hall. Where's the hall?
Hall.
He's coming to check on me.
And then I'm just gonna do a knock. I'll just do a knock. If you do a knock, it'll... Loud knock on door. Just normal knock. Yeah, that would freak me the fuck out. That would freak me out and make me turn off the video, which is exactly what I'm aiming for my own audience. Oh! Okay. So I delete everything. There. No, I just want the first bit.
He's checking on me. He's calling my name. It sounds just like my dad.
Perfecto. Everything. Join everything. What's the first thing I need to do? Filter. Yeah. Or is it pace? What do I normally do again? Is it pace or is it... It's the pace. Pitch. No, not pitch. Tempo. That's it. Apply. Otherwise it sounds like I'm speaking way too slow. Compress. Filter. Bass. And then double. Done. Done. Okay, that's another one done. Not open. Say project as. No, not project. Oh god, it's been so long. I can't remember how to do this. Export to computer. Creepy piste. Creepy piste. And then that's done. Okay, give me 2 seconds. I'll see if I'm gonna have enough time to do another one. Okay, guys, I'm gonna have to leave it there, but thank you for joining. And yeah, hope you all have a great